So we can start the chanting immediately and do it with mindfulness, awareness, conscientiousness. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sammasambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sammasambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sammasambuddhassa. Buddham saranam gacchami, Dhammam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi Buddham saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi Dhammam saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi Sangham saranam gacchami, Tatiyampi Buddham saranam gacchami, Tatiyampi Dhammam saranam gacchami, Tatiyampi Sangham saranam gacchami. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May they be free from suffering and its causes. May they never be parted from their happiness beyond suffering. May they abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment to the near, and aversion from the far. I shall cause this. Great compassionate Buddha, please inspire me to be able to do so. Reverently, I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind, and present clouds of every types of offerings, actual and mentally transformed. I confess all of my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time, and rejoice in all the virtues of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until cyclic existence ends, and turn the wheel of Dharma for all sentient beings. I dedicate the virtues of myself and others to the great enlightenment. However innumerable all sentient beings are, I vow to save them all. However inexhaustible my delusions are, I vow to extinguish them all. However immeasurable the Dharma teachings are, I vow to master them all. However endless the Buddha's way is, I vow to follow it completely. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Tayata Gate Gate Para Samgate Bodhi Soha. Tayata Gate Gate Para Samgate Bodhi Soha. Tayatam gate para samgate bodhi soha. So now get yourself ready for some meditation. First of all, to release the tension from the body, which also helps to release tension mentally. And then some breath meditation before we do the loving kindness meditation. And then continue the commentary on the Karaniya Metta Sutta, on the Buddha's words on universal loving kindness. Of course, we've already gone through the morality part, first verse, and we're halfway through the second verse, which is related predominantly to meditation, to absorbing your mind with this universal love and kindness. We'll finish off the second part of this second verse today. And then for next week and probably the week after, we'll do the third verse, which is also related to absorbing your mind with the universal love and kindness. Before, of course, we move on to the fourth and last verse, which is related predominantly to insight or wisdom. So now, as I say often, forget everything I just said, and let's do some meditation. So get yourself into a nice position for yourself. Try not to be rigid, but also try not to be slouching or lazy. Of course, for some of you, maybe you have a bad back or something like that. It's fine to lean on your chair or lie down even. But for those of us who can sit either cross-legged on the floor or sit upright on the couch or in the chair or something like that, then we should do so, especially considering it's such a short session. Of course, if you include the chanting, then it's possibly up to about 20 minutes that we do these meditations altogether. So gently close your eyes, lips gently touching, tongue resting on the upper palate above your top teeth in your mouth. As mentioned, your shoulders nice and relaxed, but not slouching. Bring your mind to your body. And from the bottom to the top, we will release the tension. From the tips of your toes, all the way up your legs, up your upper torso, to your shoulders, then down to the tips of your fingers, and then up to your neck and your head, finishing off at the crown of your head. So let's take a few moments to do this now. And now scan your body again from the bottom to the top, just to see if there's any more tension that you can release. Once you've done this, bring your focus to your breathing. Initially the tip of your nose, and we're going to follow the feeling of the breath as we breathe in to your lungs, as they fill with air, and the air goes out your nose again, in your nose, all the way into your lungs, then back out your nose again. That's all we have to do right now, is to focus on the breath, to place the mind on the feeling of the breath as we breathe in and out. Because we are sentient beings, we will have thoughts, we will have some sort of feelings, maybe even emotions, some sort of mental activity or agitation, and even dullness. If you do have some distraction like this, then just simply replace your mind back onto your breath. For instance, if thoughts arise, don't cling to them, grasp at them, or even try to force them away or deny them, but just replace the mind back onto the breath and let them go naturally. And if your mind does start to become a little dull during this short session, then wake it up a little by refocusing on the breath more brightly. And just to let you know, we're actually engaging in the practice of loving kindness as we do this, because we're being loving and kind towards ourselves by giving ourselves the opportunity to improve our concentration and clarity of mind and brightness of mind. So now let's practice like this for a little while in silence. So now we can feel pleased with ourselves for engaging in this short session, short breath meditation session. And now we will switch techniques to the universal loving kindness meditation. So fill yourself with universal loving kindness. You can do this just with the feeling, or you can utilize visualization and visualize your whole being filling with white light, or if you prefer, white nectar. So fill yourself with this friendship, with this appreciation, respect, with honesty, forgiveness and acceptance. Fill yourself with so much loving kindness now that it overflows and radiates outwards to others, initially to your family, loved ones and friends, those people that you have an affinity towards, that have been so kind to you, even if on occasions we don't get on. Predominantly, they've been so kind to you. Now you repay this kindness by radiating this loving kindness towards them and wishing that they be happy and have the causes of happiness, and that they are free from suffering and the causes of suffering, that they are peaceful. Now also radiate the loving kindness to strangers, those people that you are indifferent towards. Maybe you know them a little or not at all. May they also be happy, free from suffering and be peaceful. And also to those beings that you find difficult, may even regard as enemies. Fill them with the universal loving kindness too, and have the wish that they be happy, free from suffering, and to be peaceful. Now let's radiate this loving kindness to all beings around your immediate area, all of the different types of living beings, whether they are born from wombs, from eggs, from moisture, through transformation, and whether they live on the land or in the waters, even fly through the air. May all of these beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering and free from the causes of suffering. And may they be peaceful. Now let's start to radiate this loving kindness out further and further distance-wise, like a great tidal wave of loving kindness. Now to include your whole state or county and all of the living beings living here. And further, gathering momentum now to other states and counties throughout your whole country. When you engage in this practice in longer sessions, you can even include more with the people and the different countries in a moment. You can visualize your loving kindness going to those animals you have an affinity towards, then those that you're indifferent towards, and then even those that you may fear or have some sort of yucky feeling towards. Let's radiate this love and kindness out to other countries as well, throughout the whole world. Initially those you have an affinity towards, then those you're indifferent towards, and those that you have some sort of negative feeling towards even. Until your loving kindness pervades this whole planet, not only the countries, but the oceans, all the bodies of water, above the land, below the land, all the way to the center of the earth even. Now have this loving kindness radiate out throughout the whole solar system. And the whole galaxy. And the universe. Until your loving kindness pervades infinite space. This immeasurable loving kindness. Infinite loving kindness. While also being present here and now to recite the dedication prayer. Due to this merit, may I soon attain the enlightened state of the Buddha, so that I may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious bodhicitta, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline but increase forevermore. And may the precious view of shunyata, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline but increase forevermore. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. Okay, so we continue the commentary as mentioned earlier. And so we're up to the second verse. Of course, the second verse, it says, may all sentient beings be happy. May they live in safety and joy. All sentient beings, whether weak or strong, great or small, short or tall, seen or unseen, near or distant, born or to be born, may they all be happy. And so last week we spoke about the first couple of lines there. May all sentient beings be happy, may they live in safety and joy. And we touched on the last little bit there too. And I mentioned to you how we're all interconnected, and that whether we regard beings as short or tall and so forth, actually depends on our own perception of it, and depends on the central point of reference. What is tall, what is short, you know, what is small, what is big, and so forth. Like big worlds, small worlds, what are they? You know, so this is made up in our own mind. This is how we're perceiving things, having perception of something, giving an identity to something or some living beings as well, as also to ourselves. I just share with you that also I'm going to start to repost the commentary on the 5 skandhas. I decided to do that after last week's class, actually. I thought, you know what, I think we should review this. Of course, it's very easy for you to look for all of these classes, as well as other talks that I've given for different groups over the last few years, especially, at the YouTube channel. And so easy for you to do so, but I thought I'd make it easier even for you when you're on Facebook. You can have a little look, even if it's for the case, what you do is actually fast forward to the Dharma talk itself. And this, of course, this was a year and a half ago that we did this approximately. And so we were doing the longer meditations as well. So the Dharma talks are probably about 16 to 18 minutes long. We started to give longer Dharma talks about May last year, I think, where I think some of the Dharma talks, if it was still the 40-minute Zoom session, then the talks were about 24 minutes long after that. Of course, at the moment, they're about half-half. Since we've been doing some Q&A and since we've been doing the commentary on the Loving Kindness Sutra. Okay, so all sentient beings, whether weak or strong. Now, of course, I'll speak about it from our own perspective, okay, right now. Obviously, the strong beings that we know about in the planets, maybe you can say, is the gorilla, you know, the whales in the ocean, the martial artists as human beings, or the boxers, I don't know, very fit people. And weak, of course, maybe people that are a bit more frail, maybe those living beings that are we could perceive as weak from their own side, maybe not, but compared to us, compared to other living beings, other animals, for instance, like maybe a little mouse or a squirrel or a little rabbit or something like that. You know, we should extend our loving kindness and to all of these beings, the ones that are weak and the ones that are strong as well. Quite often, I think maybe even if we're, you know, if we have a lot of empathy, for instance, and a certain amount of compassion, we tend to think about the ones that are weak. But actually, we should extend this love and kindness to the strong ones too, because they are also struggling. All living beings experience suffering and the different types of suffering at different times, and continue to cause this suffering. You know, think about those really strong animals. I mentioned the ones that are actually vegetarian, apart from the whales that eat plankton. But you know, those living, the big cats in Africa and other parts of the world, for instance, they're killing living beings all the time. So they're creating negative karma, even if they're not doing it, you know, planning to do it. It's instinctive in their existence right now. But you know, we have to have this love and kindness and compassion as well towards these beings, because we know if we think about it a little bit deeper than normal, just living in a worldly way, then we can perceive that they are creating this negative karma. They will experience the effects of this negative karma. They don't even know they're doing it, most of these animals, for instance. So even though if they knew they were doing it and were planning it and the intention was really strong, then of course the karma would be much more intense as well. And then the effects would be much bigger. But they're still going to experience this. They're also going to continue the habit of doing so. And so I think that'll do for them. And so weak or strong, have the loving kindness, extend the loving kindness to the weak beings, and whether it be people or animals or other ones that we think about, the insects and so forth. And then also to those ones that we regard as strong. Okay, they need our loving kindness too. Weak or strong, great or small. Great in this sense could mean, you know, great in their life conditions or whatever, or it could be, once again, to do with size. It could be, you know, the great living beings like those whales. I think the whales are the largest. Is that correct? I'm not sure. The largest animal we know about on the earth today. That's that we know about. We haven't even gone deep into the oceans yet. There could be huge things down there. Who knows? Anyway, our knowledge of these things are very limited, actually. And so great or small, the tiniest living being, extend the loving kindness to the bacteria, you know, to all of the living beings, even the plants. You know, we're vegetarians, we say, oh, we're not killing the living beings, but actually we're also uprooting the plants. The plants also have life. Of course, they don't have the consciousness that some other living beings have, especially the human beings have. So, but we're doing less bad, you could say, by having this type of diet, I guess. Okay, so great or small, short or tall. So those living beings that are very short in stature, which for certain things to do in life, it can be very difficult. If you're in a crowd, you can't see over the crowd. But you know what? The short beings and even small beings maybe have it easier on a crowded airplane or a bus. I know that from experience. If I, you know, in economy or something in an airplane, of course I haven't traveled now for going on 3 years really, but it's difficult, especially long trips. These legs, you want to chop them off about halfway. If you go into Britain, for instance, 24 hours on the airplane, about halfway you want to chop your legs off, put them in the baggage part, and then have more room. So anyway, of course, I'm very fortunate. In the past, I used to travel business class first. Work was the clients that paid for that, but I was also, because I traveled so much, I had frequent flyer miles up there. So even if I was paying for it myself, I'd pay for the cheapest ticket and then upgrade using the points. and then have more room. But even other times, been traveling, in more recent years, economy, but because I'm tall, I get to be, if I'm smart about it and quick about it, on the exit rows. So get a little bit more room. But the big guys tend to get on these exit rows, and so we're always shoulder to shoulder, So what I'm saying, it could be better to be small in that situation. I just thought I'd bring a bit of humor with it, okay, or to it. And so, great or small, short or tall, seen or unseen. So these are the living beings that you can see in front of you. Extend our loving kindness to them. And even the ones that maybe you're aware of, but you can't see because they're not around you right now, or you can't see them because they're so small. And so extend the loving kindness to these ones as well. Even the ones you don't know about, extend the loving kindness out further and further. This is why during the meditation on loving kindness, we look at expanding it continually, slowly, bigger. The radiation of the loving kindness becoming more vast and more vast, to develop the mind like this. And so, what is it now? Short or tall, seen or unseen, near or distant. So these are the living beings that may be close to you here now, or distant. Maybe you don't know about beings in different countries, but also other worlds and other realms of existence, as we've spoken about. I think maybe back in April, around that time, we spoke about the different realms of existence. So all, even the heavenly beings, the jealous God realm, and the different types of heavens. And as you know, we know about human beings and animals and insects, but also the hungry ghost realm and those beings experiencing hellish conditions right now. Extend a loving kindness to all of these beings. Wish that they have happiness and engage in the causes of happiness, that they are free from suffering and free from engaging in the causes of suffering, and that they are peaceful. And so I just had a little flying thing come past my screen just then. We're very diligent in the house, and we try not to have the insects come in, not only for us, but for them, because when they're inside the house, they don't get the opportunity to, have their food and have their normal life. But it's so funny talking about different living beings, and tiny little flying thing. So good timing. I just extended love and kindness to that living being. And also, so seen or unseen, near or distant, born or to be born. So the living beings, whether they have just died from their previous life, extend a loving kindness to them. If they're still involved in the dying process, or whether they have died already, maybe even in an intermediate period called the bardo, in between the lives. Now, this could only be half a second, or it could be up to, maybe 7 weeks, something like that. The longer they're in this period, the more suffering they may experience, more fear maybe they experience. So wish that they be free from this, and that they take a good rebirth, And then, of course, those beings that are to be born, maybe they're being born right now, maybe in the hospital, or maybe the animals, giving birth, or the insects giving birth, maybe some insects that are born from moisture. Wish that they all be happy. So think about all of these beings as well, whether they're born from wombs, as mentioned, through by eggs, or hatched from eggs and through moisture, or through transformation, as from our perspective, position. Maybe those caterpillar turns into a butterfly or a moth. That's an interesting one. People think, oh, so beautiful, these butterflies. Yaki, the moth. Actually, it's the same being. They just look different, look attractive to us, some of them, and other ones not so much. And so all of these beings, all equal, we've all been each other's relatives in the past. And so we need to extend the loving kindness to these beings, okay? So near or distant, born or to be born, may they all be happy. And remember the words that actually, the real traditional Four Immeasurables prayer that we actually recite before the class or at the beginning of the class. And may all sentient beings have happiness at its causes. May they be free from suffering and its causes. May they never be parted from their happiness beyond suffering. And may they abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment to the near, and aversion from the far. That's the actual traditional prayer. I added the lines, which is still in accord with tradition. I will take responsibility for this to happen, and then asking for inspiration, say from the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, to be able to do this. So we need to take responsibility, first of all, to develop this loving kindness within ourselves, and then to extend this loving kindness to all living beings, and do whatever we can to, first of all, alleviate their sufferings if possible, and then, of course, cause happiness for them if possible. And then, of course, realize that we're not perfect. There's many times, I'm sure that for all of you, maybe you're trying to save the life of a living being because they're so small and we're clumsy, then actually we kill them. There's many times I've gone in the past to bring spiders outside, and then, they move at the last minute, the jar goes over the top of them and you chop their leg off. At that time, wish that they have happy. Of course, the spiders, apparently their leg grows back, but they still experience a lot of pain at that time. And so of course, we should also engage in the purification practice for ourselves at that time, but really wish that they be happy, wish that they, when they do pass away from that existence, that they have a higher existence and that they come into contact with the Dharma and work their way towards realizing the supreme truth. Okay, so that's those extra lines that I added to that. So that for immeasurable prayer is for us to take responsibility, but also realize we're not perfect and we need to be inspired. And the inspiration comes from the Buddha, from the Bodhisattvas, Arahants, the teachers, and also the Dharma, especially the Dharma that the Buddha taught, and that it's being passed on by other living beings now and still existent in the world. We have it to be inspired by. So I think we have just under 3 minutes to go. I wanted to mention that. So I'll just recite that verse again. May all sentient beings, or what is it? How does it start? Just that part. May all sentient beings be happy. May they live in safety and joy. All sentient beings, whether weak or strong, great or small, short or tall, seen or unseen, near or distant, born or to be born, may they all be happy. So I wanted to mention another difference. You could say difference. We think about it in a different way. All of us are living beings, okay? Let's just make it simple and say people right now. We're all the people. We really don't need that much to survive. There's primarily the requisites really are air to breathe, food and water, shelter. Clothing can come under shelter, and we need rest. We need some sleep and a place to do that. So the shelter. So everything else is secondary. So this computer is secondary. We don't really need it to survive physically. But of course, we have these extra things that we need this computer right now to do this class. We need cars maybe to be able to get around, or buses or other forms of transport. So these are secondary. So there's this difference in the world, and it's becoming bigger and bigger, isn't it? The differences between different types of people from different cultures, different countries, speak different languages, eat different foods, and then there's this gap there. But actually, we're all the same. Nothing's changed much over time. And also this idea of generation gap or different generations, it's all made up stuff related to consumerism, really, isn't it? Politics and stuff like that. It's all nonsense, really. So we should extend this love and kindness to all living beings, the older generation, the ones in between, the younger generation, even if they irritate us or we irritate them, generation, all living life, past, gone, present is fleeting, future is not here. Extend the loving kindness, or fill ourselves with loving kindness first, then extend the loving kindness out to all others. Okay, so I wanted to mention that, and maybe I'll continue with that a little bit next week as we pick up the third verse of the 4 verses in this song, you could say.